Hello and welcome back to the Fight and Talk 2 channel. We are the Fight and Talk 2 team, the eloquent analyst, and George over in Casual Corner. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Great, thank you.
Good.
Great.
There's thumbs up all round. There is thumbs up all round, and we are still reeling after the weekend's events at 263. And obviously, we did do a breakdown show of that. George unfortunately couldn't make it. Apologies from him. But myself and the eloquent analyst did a breakdown show of 263. So if you want to check that out, it will be on the channel at Fighting Talk 2. But the UFC are relentless with putting these cards on, sometimes at their own detriment, I feel, this weekend, because we probably could have skipped this one, in my humble opinion. There's not a great amount on this card for us collectively. There's a lot of up-and-comers. There's a lot of very, very much so veterans of the game, especially Olynyk, who's obviously 59-15. And when you think about someone that's had a lot of fights, he's probably one of the kind of people that come to mind anyway, and he's fighting an up-and-comer. So we'll get straight into it. Eloquent analyst, what are you looking forward to this weekend? Give me one fight that you're really looking forward to on this card.
Outside of the main event, because obviously that is just an incredible fight, and would be beautiful on any pay-per-view card. You know, don't know if it needed to be on this particular card, but I digress. My favorite fight on this card is probably Marlon Vera versus Davy Grant. You know, got to support our UK guy as usual. Marlon Vera is a great fighter as well. I actually really love his story and his fighting style. Love Davy Grant's as well. Great fighting style, great takedowns. Bit of a herky-jerky style in his last fight. Weird kind of stand-up, but made it work and got the TKO win over Jonathan Martinez, who's, you know, probably one of my bigger bantamweight prospects coming up. So for him to ice off him and now move into a fight with a higher ranked Marlon Vera, this will really put him and solidify him in the bantamweight division. So great fight for him, tough fight for him. If he gets through this as well, though, it really shows that he's ready to be kind of at the top of the bantamweight division. So interested to see what our boy Davey here can do.
I feel like Marlon Vera got a lot of traction after he beat, obviously, well, in Sean O'Malley's eyes, he didn't beat him, but, you know, I feel like he got a lot of traction after that win. But do you feel like he gained that traction, he gained that popularity because he beat this kind of up-and-comer that has crazy hair and talks about heroin when he's holding his kids? Or do you think that he's actually a very good kind of fighter on his own rights?
I think he's a great fighter on his own rights. And, you know, clearly him beating Sean O'Malley led to a fight with him against Jose Aldo. He lost to Jose Aldo, but that's a tough fight. That's a tough out for any bantamweight in that division. So do I think I think he definitely gained stock from the Sean O'Malley fight, but I think in general, like, he's definitely like a fighter's fighter. You know, very aggressive in the cage, great stand-up, great takedowns, uses a lot of the weapons that you don't often see from a lot of these guys. You know, knees and elbows, and a lot of them, which is really, really great. You know, typically you see a kickboxing style, a wrestling style, a jiu-jitsu style, but you don't often see those real high-level Muay Thai fighters come in and just take over. And I'm hoping that his can translate a little bit more. You know, if he wins this fight, he's got a lost win kind of situation going on. And I just want to see him get on a bit of a winning streak here. And when he gets put into these bigger situations, that he's able to take the wins here. You know, took a big win from Sean O'Malley, but then lost one to Jose Aldo. Not saying that either one of those fighters are scrubs, but would be good for him to get on a bit of a roll here. So excited to see what either gentleman can do here as well. I actually really like both of them. I don't want to see a loser here because obviously support the British fighter as I do. But I really like Marlon Vera's story with his child. I know he was raising funds for his child because she had like a facial issue where she couldn't smile, and he was raising money so that his daughter could smile, and then eventually got it done. And now, you know, he is one of the top bantamweights in that division. So I wouldn't want to say that he's a gatekeeper kind of fighter, but he's a little bit like that in the sense that if you can get over that hump, then your your possibilities are endless in the bantamweight division and who they match you up against. Because I think Dana, people like Dana White, people like Sean Shelby rate Marlon Vera. So if Davy Gron can win here, he'll see himself against, potentially like a Sean O'Malley or a Jose Aldo or someone in the lower half of the bantamweight division. So great fight for both, to be fair.
I feel like if Sean O'Malley hadn't have made such a big thing out of this, Marlon Vera's stock necessarily wouldn't gone up as much. Do you know what I mean? Like the amount of press that he put on it and the fact that he was denying the win and everything probably made it more dramatic than it had to be.
Well, look at Leon Edwards, right? Look at Leon Edwards this weekend. He dominated for 24 minutes, got rocked in the last minute, and the fight, everyone has been talking about Nate Diaz. Oh my God, look at Nate Diaz in that 5th round. He was so good. They weren't actually giving Leon the credit he deserves. And I think it's the same thing here. Like, I think the way that the fight got stopped was always going to lead to a little bit of controversy for Marlon Vera. But in my eyes, when I watch it, it's a TKO. He elbowed him and KO'd him. And then I think on the second shot, he got woken back up. So in my eyes, that was a stoppage win. That was a legitimate stoppage win. But I don't think the general fan sees it that way. And I think people love Sean O'Malley and his style, right? So I think, irregardless of the person he is outside of the cage, same with John Jones, right? Irregardless of who he is outside of the cage, as long as he's in the cage and he's doing good work, then I think the fans are entertained. And so for a fighter that fans love in the cage to lose that way, that ends up being the bigger story than what Marlon Vera was able to achieve there. But in my estimation and my credit, I would say that he fully deserves that win, and he should be credentialed for that because Sean O'Malley is really skyrocketing to the top of the bantamweight division, and Dana White loves him, the fans love him. So it's kind of the same thing as like when Nate stopped Conor. Like it was like, oh wow, okay, he stopped him. Wow, that's crazy. I think if Sean O'Malley was to get like properly knocked out, like KO'd and stiffened out, it would have that same effect that Conor did against Nate Diaz. But yeah, Marlon, I think Marlon's, people love Marlon. He's a great dude. He seems like, whenever he gets interviews, he seems like a really like humble fighter, but confident, very, very confident in his skills, and he should be because he's a savage.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And then there's another fight on this card, a little brother of a very, very well-known fighter, obviously Douglas Lima. His little brother, Diego Lima, is in the UFC fighting a legend that is Matt Brown. George, do you think his little brother is ever going to be as big as he is in Diego Lima, or do you think, or in Douglas Lima, sorry, but do you think his little brother can kind of do what his big brother's done?
No, I don't, in all honesty. And I mean, we were talking about this on our WhatsApp group when obviously Douglas Lima's just lost at the weekend. No longer a champion, no more. And there was a slightly not controversial, but a kind of discussion was kind of starting about, how good is Douglas Lima? What is Douglas Lima's kind of like level? And I think we found out that we came to the consensus that he's good, but not excellent. And it kind of feels quite similar in Diego Lima's sense. I think you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but has someone got his record to hand? Is it like, it's not, I don't think it's the prettiest, is it? I think it's like 15 or something.
17-7.
For
Diego
17-7. Okay. So it's not hideous, to be fair. I thought it was worse than that. So, but I mean, I feel like when you get this kind of fight of a Matt Brown, like it's an important one to get you over the line with, because it's one of those kind of like veterans that you need to kind of beat on your way kind of upwards. I think we were talking a couple of weeks ago about Matt Brown. Wasn't it Miguel Baeza beat Matt Brown on his kind of way up to kind of like the ascendancy that he was kind of getting. So it feels like if Diego Lima wants to do something, he's got to get through a veteran like a Brown. Then he'll get another fight against maybe a slightly better guy and so on and so forth. And then maybe you start to look at him a bit like a Miguel Baeza. But look, if I'm being brutally honest, I don't see it. I don't think he's as good as his brother. And his brother's not great. So yeah, I'm not convinced by Diego Lima. But it's an important fight for him and his career trajectory going forwards that he gets past a veteran like Matt Brown.
And obviously, with Matt Brown being a veteran, it's because he's had a lot of fights. But when you actually break his record down, it's, you know, myself and Prath were talking about this in the previous episode. It's 24-18. You know, I mean, at what point do you say to yourself, like, right, I'm pretty close to being 50-50 here with wins and losses? At what point do you think it's not even, you're not even a journeyman anymore? You're just kind of, what are you there for?
Yeah, I suppose he can't keep on losing, because I mean, at that point in the UFC, go, well, look, this is it now. You know, can't keep on doing it forever. At some point, the contract runs out, and the UFC look at it and go, you know, this isn't working for us anymore. You know, and the UFC have shown they are pretty brutal. When they want to get rid of someone, they'll just do it instantly. And you know, we see people all the time being cut. You know, I think Jacare posted today that he's being cut from the UFC now. So. Yeah, so he's now left, and he's apparently heading to one championship. So, you know, I think this is, you know, maybe if Matt Brown continues to, you know, that record continues to get closer and closer to 50-50, the UFC might say, time to move on, but thank you for your service.
Yeah, of course. So just a little bit on Jacare. I mean, was there any kind of other details? And we always talk about this with, you know, certain people get a really good send off and it's all like flowers and, you know, thanks so much. And, oh, you did great. Like Alan Joban, he got like a really nice little send off when he retired, because he was obviously on the analyst board. And someone like Jacare, who's been around the game for such a long time, just doesn't really get a big, you know, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I do find this a bit weird, because obviously Joban got it and Paul Felder got the opportunity as well.
Yeah.
You know, while some guys who have arguably done more in the UFC haven't had the send-off that maybe they deserve to have. You know, I think whenever I think about it, I always think of Junior Dos Santos really recently. You know, this is a guy who was a former champion, and he just got kind of shoved out the UFC and was like, see you later, thanks very much. You know, it is a bit weird how it works. It almost feels like the people who are kind of already on the kind of like ESPN or UFC platforms, they get more of an opportunity to kind of say goodbye to the fans. But I personally would love it if they got the opportunity to, you know, whether they pulled them out in front of live audiences or whatever, or they just, you know, they had like a montage before the kind of like cards were starting, anything like that to kind of like, you know, they're they're part of the UFC history, they're part of mixed martial arts history. You know, we should get more of an acknowledgement, you know, when they decide to step away, whether that's them leaving the UFC to go and fight elsewhere or just retiring, you know, completely.
Yeah, or even because for me personally, when I've found out that someone's retired, it's generally from either a MMA journalist or it's been from the actual fighter themselves. It's never the UFC that would post something and put, Jacare, he did great, he's not with us anymore. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like they would have more of a platform than an MMA journalist that's obviously not got, you know, probably got a huge platform, but not as big as the UFC like main page itself. You know, what do you think about that? Do you think it should come directly from the horse's mouth?
I personally wouldn't hate it if like today, if I got onto Twitter or Instagram and had seen that there'd been a 5-minute interview from the UFC with Jacare talking about his career and like what he's achieved, and like I personally would be fully invested in seeing something like that. You know, I'm sure other people probably wouldn't care too much, but you know, I'm up for seeing a bit more kind of love and attention given to these guys who have obviously put so much into mixed martial arts and into the UFC as a promotion, as a company.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's a shame, it really is. But back to the weekend, we've got Chaos Williams versus Semmelsberger. Prath, tell me, do these two names ring a bell to you? Because I believe this was added to the fight card a little bit later than the rest of the announcements.
Semmelsberger I'm not too familiar with, but Chaos Williams I've definitely watched him fight a few times. He had the amazing knockout win over Abdel Razak Al Hassan, which was crazy scary because you know, Al Hassan is that guy. So for him to knock him out like that was craziness. You know, his record is 11-2, so you know he's suffered very few losses. I think the first loss was only 2-3 fights into his career, so and then has won, you know, 7 or 8 since then. Lost his last fight against Michel Pereira by decision, but that was a tough fight as well because I think Michel Pereira's just got a very unorthodox style. I'm losing all my words today. Unorthodox style. I'm trying to be as eloquent as possible, but it's troubling me in these warm weathers. I think he's got a great chance against Semmelsberger. Again, I don't know much about Semmelsberger, so I'm going to assume that this is a little bit of a layup fight for him. Yeah, that's all I've got for you. He's got great hands. He's got great kicks as well. So I'm sure he's explosive as hell. He's going to come out in the first round like a bat out of hell. Let's see if Semmelsberger can survive the storm.
Yeah, he's definitely coming out in the first round and going to try and knock his block off. That's what Chaos Williams has done. Since we've kind of taken more notice of him, that's clearly what he tries to do. You know, and I think this does feel like a bit of a kind of like you lost your last fight, so let's try and get you back in there, try and have a win on the board, and try and start rebuilding this a little bit for you. But the UFC, you know, just you were saying about Michel Pereira, well, I'm not trying to divert off, but they love putting that guy in with some crazy guys, don't they? Chaos Williams, now isn't he fighting Nico Price soon?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Mate, they all they do is put him in with mental people. I suppose though he is absolutely mental himself. But yeah, no, Chaos Williams is definitely coming to finish it inside 5 minutes. He doesn't try and do it any other way.
And with a name like Chaos, you'd expect there to be some. Do you know what I mean?
100%. You got to live up to your
name.
It,
man. Yeah, he brings it. His finishes in the octagon that he's had in the UFC, both were inside the first minute and inside the first round. So, you know, he's looking to come out there and swing for the fences. So let's see if Semmelsberger has got that good head movement.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, a name like Semmelsberger, I mean, you're already on the back foot there, aren't you, really? You're already on the back foot.
He really is, though.
We've got an absolute veteran of the game, as I mentioned earlier. We've got olynyk coming out and fighting with his 59-15 record. The guy's 44. He's been in and around the UFC for such a long time. And I feel like he's not slowing down at all. He's like a boa constrictor out there, right? He is the submission master. So putting him up against Spivak, who is 12-2. Prath, what do you think? Do you think the old man's getting a retirement fight and he's going to catch a W or catch a loss and then right off into the sunset? Maybe he could leave his gloves in the octagon. That'd be great. I mean, at 44, I'm not sure how old the oldest person that's ever fought in the UFC was. I'm very, very sure he's going to be close to that age.
I think it's Randy Couture, I want to say. I think Randy Couture was probably the oldest. I think he was in like his later 40s, 45, 46. Before he retired. Look, the story about Alexei Olynyk is he's either going to take you to the ground and strangle you to death, or you're going to knock him out in the first minute. The first round in general.
Yeah,
he seems to like either. There's no in between. Literally, he'll either get like the most odd choke on you, like a Ezekiel choke, which is insanely hard to do in the octagon, but this guy seems to do it pretty much every other time he gets in there. Or he gets hit with one shot and then either falls straight to the ground or takes one shot and then takes about 17 others afterwards, because I feel like his tells are he's a little bit too telling. When you see a lot of guys get hurt in the fights, they're able to keep their composure a little bit. You know, Leon Edwards obviously got on the rubbery legs. That's a bad display of being able to take your damage and show that you're still okay. But Olynyk, for me, he gets hit with a shot and then he's dazed, and then the other guy just comes in for he's fought Derek Lewis and Chris Daukaus, right? Both guys that are very good at finishing, very good at knowing when their guy is hurt and going and chasing that finish. So Sergey Spivak, I mean, like one of the more forgettable faces and names in the UFC, but a heavyweight journeyman fighter, 12-2. He's lost to Walt Harris and Marcin Tybura. He's had a couple of decision wins. He doesn't strike me as a guy that's like, he's ready to hit the top 15 of the heavyweight division, or he's in like the thick of the heavyweight division. He just seems like a fringe 15. Okay, well, this guy needs a fight. Let's call up Sergey Spivak and get him on board. You know, that's what it feels like for me. And then, you know, you could relate that to like a Carlos Felipe, for instance. So it's like, you know, he's never going to be like the most amazing top 5 heavyweight fighter, but he's a body that can get in there and scrap. So I'm assuming that this is a little bit more of a layup fight for Olynyk as opposed to Spivak. But again, what we've seen with our boy Alexei Olynyk is he might just get hit with a shot, fall to the ground, maybe in a playing possum kind of way, and get him in some crazy like choke off of his back. So that's the way I kind of see that going, to be fair.
Yeah, and sometimes with these guys that have got like you say, a little bit more forgetful. Brandon Moreno obviously got cut from the UFC, came back, had a few wins. Now he's the champ. And someone like Taito Ivassa, who's actually going to be on the co-main, I think it is, of the Conor McGregor card. And he was cut from the UFC.
Yeah, but it's because he's fighting Greg Hardy, isn't it? Greg Hardy is the bigger name in America.
Yeah, true.
Such a weird co-main, though, when you got Burns and Wonderboy on that card as well. That can't be. Surely that's going to be co-main.
I feel like that should be co-main, but you know, the NFL, Greg Hardy, the story, I think people would just be interested in seeing him get knocked the fuck out. So I think that's why they maybe put him in such a top, like such a big position on the card.
I mean, there's big positions and then there's big positions. I mean, you're fighting at co-main to Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, the trilogy fight in Las Vegas, full crowd, pay-per-view, the whole works. That's a big, big slot. It just surprises me that is the name. Like, that is like, I don't screw it be on the main card. I'm just like, when I see that Burns and Wonderboy there, and that could be a potential future number 1 contender. Well, if Wonderboy wins that, he could be a title contender next. It's like, it just seems a bit bizarre, but I mean, I'm not the UFC.
The fight for me, it falls perfectly into that prelim position, right? The head of the prelims, right at the end, before the main card starts.
Yeah, man, it's what you need.
We're not the matchmakers.
You need to Bassi Hardy at the top of the prelims, you know, a bit like the Riddell Dober fight, you know, just you need one that you just guarantee is going to be the one at the top of the prelims, it's going to be an absolute banger, blah, 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 gets you going for the main card. That makes the most sense, not co-main. No, anyway, moving on.
But even Bam Bam Tuivasa, you know, as fun as he is he even going to be a kind of heavyweight contender at any point in his career? I don't see it personally. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, is Greg Hardy? Probably not. The two of them, it's a bit of a throwaway fight. You know, it doesn't really change the rankings. It doesn't really change the stock with the fans. It's just a bit, you know, okay, cool, they're fighting, but you know, I don't really care. You know, it'll either be
outside of the
slugfest or it'll be a snooze fest.
Outside of the top 15 of most of these divisions, though, you could say that about a lot of the fighters that fight in these divisions. But I think heavyweight obviously adds an element of, oh my God, they could get knocked out within the first 30 seconds. Probably won't happen, but you know, that's the rhetoric that Dana White likes to throw at everyone. Oh, it's a heavyweight fight. It's gonna, you know, I can't see this one going to a finish. I'd pay £1,000 if this goes all the way to the end. You know, he's that kind of emotional person. That's why he's gotten as far as he has. Yeah. But you know, the card itself is just so good as well. Where else would you really slot that? It's like you've got Nico Price and Michelle Pereira on the early Fight Pass prelims. Like, what the hell?
Really?
On the early prelims or on the prelims?
Early. It's the top of the Fight Pass prelims.
Wow. Michelle Pereira.
Isn't Adrian Yanez on this card as well?
Is he? I think he's supposed to be, no? Or is he on the one after?
He's not on this one.
I thought he was fighting Randy Costa. Is it Randy Costa?
He's not fighting on this one. He's fighting...
I thought he was fighting... who's fighting Ryan Hall? Ryan Hall's on this one, no?
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Hall is on that card. Ilya Topuria.
That's a great one.
That'll be a bang.
I'm trying to find this fight, man. I can't find it.
No, but the main event for this weekend is probably the star of the show here, and it's probably a fight that we would have happily seen opening up a main card of a pay-per-view. It's the Korean Zombie, as we always know, puts on a damn good show when he's out there versus Dan 50K / 75K, whatever they want to give him, Ige. And I'm really looking forward to this one, to be honest with you. Dan Ige looked absolutely phenomenal for all of like 15 seconds last time he was out, I believe it was. It was a pretty quick night at the office last time. Will he do the same thing against the Korean Zombie? Who knows? The Zombie has got a chin, hence his name, the Zombie. You know, he will just keep coming forward.
Yeah,
Definitely.
one of my favorite fighters of all time. Love the Korean Zombie. Incredible style, incredible submissions. Like I first watched the Korean Zombie when he fought Dustin Poirier back in the day, and that was like such an incredible fight. And ever since then, I've just been such a massive fan of him. And he had an amazing streak after that, and then went away, did his service for his country, came back, had an amazing win against Dennis Bermudez, and then kind of has been a little bit up and down, but that's only because he's fighting the best of the best of the best in the featherweight division. He's not fighting, you know, number 20 or number 25. He's fighting like number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 5. Like he's fighting the top of the featherweight division. So I'm not surprised that he's kind of bounced a couple of wins back and forth here because, you know, they're crazy, crazy dudes. And you like, look at the Yair Rodriguez fight. Like who would have predicted that being the outcome? Kind of the same way as, I wouldn't say that Yair was necessarily losing that fight. I think he was maybe losing that fight by maybe the round. But, you know, he can pull it out of the bag, KO someone who is un-KOable for the most part. Like when have you ever seen Chan Sang-jung really get finished? Like barely ever. So, you know, credit where it's credit's due. This is going to be a tough fight for Dan Ige, though, man. Korean Zombie's got such a relentless style. He's got great hands. He's got great kicks. Like, there's very few places where you can really say, you know, this is a hole in Chan Sung-jung's game. Like, there is very little. He's so technically proficient. You know, his hands are at the right place. Like, he barely ever gets rocked by shots because he's got such good defense. You know, defense in the sense that he can kind of get out of the way, but he does eat a lot of shots as well. So does Dan Ige have the power to put away Chan Sung-jung? That's something I really don't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, he obviously had the power last time he was out because he won by emphatic KO, right?
Yeah, but I would say Gavin Tucker and Chan Sung-jung are in slightly different ends of the division, if you will.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. George, what's your 2 cents on this, buddy? And who's in Crush Corner this week?
Crush Corner this week's got to go to the Korean Zombie, man. Like Prath said, one of my favorite fighters of all time as well. You know, just a guy who you just know is guaranteed entertainment, and that's the type of guy that I like. You know, I feel like though when I think about this fight, Dan Ige is really loved by the UFC because he got himself a nice main event not last summer against Calvin Kattar. It didn't quite work for him. So they said, look, let's go back to the drawing board on this. Let's try and find you a guy maybe we can get a win with, but who has a good record, like a Tucker. You know, within 20 seconds, he's knocked him out. And then he goes, I want Korean Zombie. And most people don't get their call out. Well, Dan Ige's got his call out. You know, Korean Zombie could have quite easily said, no, I don't want to fight you. I want to fight someone, you know, above me who can get me closer back to a title shot, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, fair play to the Zombie. You know, he wants to come and he wants to continue to stay active and fight. I agree with Prath, though. I think this is going to prove to be kind of like that little step too far, like Kattar was last summer. I think he's just in like, if they're like in the A bracket, he's like right at the top of the B bracket, but he's just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
And I feel like Korean Zombie, you know, if he wants to get back pushing towards the title shot, he's got to come through against a guy like Dan Ige. You can't not basically. You have to win these fights. You know, if we're being honest, if Korean Zombie had turned it on against Ortega back in the autumn, he'd be probably fighting Volkanovski right now for the title. So, you know, that's how close he was. And I had him winning that fight before the fight happened, and Ortega just came along and, you know, blew it out of the water, basically. But, yeah, you know, he's a top mixed martial artist. He's one of the greats. He's got all the skills, you know, the striking, the kicks. He's good on the ground. The all-round skill set is high level. And yeah, I just think this is going to prove to be a little bit of a step too far. Dan Ige obviously won't finish him. I don't think because he's too tough. And I don't think Zombie will finish Dan Ige. I just see this going to a decision. And I think Zombie will take this by a unanimous decision.
Well, strong word.
I think that Korean Zombie will probably finish by submission.
Or
something weird like a DAS choke or something.
If you told me that was definitely going to happen, I would actually stay up and watch the rest of this card just so I can see.
No,
unfortunately, my crystal ball isn't quite as good as Conor McGregor's.
This is a risky move, isn't it?
Mystic Prath, yeah.
Mystic Prath.
Mystic Prath. I like it. But the 145-pound division in the UFC is very, very stacked at the moment. I feel like it's just that kind of top six. They're all just. I feel like they're all number one contenders. Do you know what I mean?
Feels like
they're all fighting to be the champ. Do you know what I mean? And obviously we have to wait for the Volkanovski versus Ortega fight. And then where's Max Holloway? Is he booked to fight anyone yet? I feel like he fought in January, but
he's got Yair,
man.
When's that?
Yair Rodriguez.
When
July 17th.
July 17th. Like the week after.
It's the week after McGregor, right?
That's right.
But Yair's just had like 6 months off being suspended from USADA for not testing his piss every week. It's a bit strange that they give him someone like Max Holloway. You know, Max Holloway's a big name and a big fight, but why do they put him in there after him being penalized for something?
2 reasons. Because Max Holloway's desperate to stay active. That's his, that's the answer. He's not willing to wait, fair play, because like he could quite easily sit out now and go, well, I'll just take the winner of Volkanovski Ortega, but he's just desperate to stay active. And from my point of view, with Yair, this is a no-lose situation for Yair Rodriguez. Yeah. If you win this, you get a title shot. If you lose it, well, you lost to Max Holloway. What is it? Doesn't really matter, does it? Like you lost to everyone thinks you're going to lose anyway. It's only a win-win situation for Yair, to be honest. So, I love it. I think Yair is really, really good. I don't think he beats Max Holloway, but I think he's very, very talented.
I see Max Holloway a little bit like Joseph Benavidez now as well. Like after Joseph lost to DJ twice, not saying that Max lost those fights to Volkanovski, I would actually say that he clearly won the second one, but judges are going to judge and do their thing as usual. So I think that Max now is in the mindset of like, let me just win as many fights as I can now, because that's the only way that's going to really prove that he deserves another shot at Volkanovski. And I think he wants Volkanovski more than anything. But I think Volkanovski is only going to fight him now. And if Max can just clear out the rest of the division, that's the only way I see Volkanovski taking a fight against Max again.
I have to admit as well, when you lose 2 fights.
Well, I was just going to say as well, I think Max is on this, like, he's on the Blessed Express and he's absolutely pissed at the moment. That's what that's the impression I get. Up from the hater fight, he's annoyed. I fancy him to absolutely nail Rodriguez and I just think he's on a one-man. He's on this mission, because I think he feels wronged from the second fight. I thought he won as well. I think he's desperate to kind of get that over Volkanovski. And at some point as well, if Volkanovski is still the champion and he beats Ortega, he's going to have nowhere to turn or to move. He's going to have to face Holloway for a third time. So, yeah, I think he just seems obsessed with trying to get that one back.
Yeah. Outside of Ortega, like Max has beaten all these other guys. So like Max deserves to be that next person. But again, Volkanovski holds all the cards now. So if he does beat Brian Ortega, then no doubt in my mind, he is going to make Max Holloway sweat for a title shot. I think if Brian Ortega wins, I think Brian Ortega willingly fights Max Holloway next. And Volkanovski is going to be the one that's on the back burner there. And I think maybe that's to Volkanovski's detriment to not take this fight with Max Holloway, because he's so... I get that he wants to fight the other people in the division, but Max is just the guy. And the second fight did not show us anything other than Max being as dominant as he is.
Go ahead, George.
Agreed. I was just going to say that if Volkanovski does lose to Ortega, a lot of those top guys will push him as far away as possible, because he is very, very good. and no one will want to face him. So he'll become the kind of like a bit like what's happening at 135 right now with Petr Yan. Everyone is basically trying to avoid it, but they know that it's a horrible night's work. I mean, fair play to Rob Font, who said, "How about we fight each other for an interim title?" I was like, "Well, that's fair play." Like, you know, if you've got a big pair of bollocks there, Rob, but that won't go for anyone.
Big pair of bollocks in that guy. Oh,
yeah,
Connor's disappeared.
Connor's disappeared, but we'll carry on.
I will be back.
Yeah,
I will be back.
If Rob Font gets that fight, fair play. But yeah, I feel like that's what happens with Volkanovski. If he was to lose to Ortega, he'd find himself on the periphery all of a sudden. He'd go from being the champ to being like, no one wants to fight you, having to take a fight like against like 7, 8. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of vibe I get.
Is Aljamain Sterling like injured long term now?
No, Aljamain Sterling the last thing I saw from Aljamain Sterling was that he was saying he doesn't understand why he has to fight Petr Yan again. That's the last thing I saw. It's like, no. What are you going on about? You've got to fight him again. That's the premise of what's going on.
I love you, Aljamain Sterling, but you are on some smoke, brother.
He doesn't understand why. I don't get it. He's actually really annoying. He's actually really annoying, to be honest. He's the worst champion ever.
Yeah, man. That's how he's gonna be remembered as well. Sadly.
And he's only young. You know, he's only young. He's a young man, and to be a young champion and to have that kind of aura around you of being the BAFTA winner for your performance of getting kneed in the head and not wanting to fight the guy that, you know, fair enough, he illegally hit him, but if he wants another fight, just give the guy another fight and then, you know, see how it plays out.
I think in the end, the UFC will end up just forcing him to have that Yan fight. I think that's what's happening. We're not doing anything else. You're having that fight. So in the end, they'll force him in that direction, which is, I think, is the right thing to do. I think they should run it back and do it again.
Yeah, and I think if all these people worked for the UFC and they were on, you know, and they were under the UFC banner instead of being, you know, individual contractors, they could just say to them like, right, you know, very much like with WWE, they don't get to choose who they fight, right? Because it's all scripted.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were to have that kind of same ethos and that same outlook within the UFC, they could say, well, you're fighting you, and they can be like, well, I don't want to fight them. I don't care, bro. You're fighting. That's it. Instead of giving them the option and, oh, do you want to fight this person? Oh, I have signed contract. You need to sign contract. And, you know, and then you got Paulo Costa pulling out saying, no, I want more money. I didn't sign anything. And you think, man, just either fight or don't fight, because you're going to lose fans and then you're going to lose money essentially, because fans are not going to want to see you. So they're not going to, you know, they're not going to pay for the pay-per-view fights.
I think Dana kind of puts his foot in it a little bit when he's always pushing the rhetoric that, you know, I'm not going to force anyone to fight. I'm going to present them with fights, but I'm not going to force any of these guys to fight. And I think some of these guys maybe take that for a ride a little bit, man. Like an Aljamain Sterling who can, you know, sit back and wait for Corey Sandhagen and TJ Dillashaw to finish what they're doing and then go, maybe I'll fight one of those guys. Or Henry Cejudo peeks his head through the door and he goes, maybe I'll fight that guy. But for the sake of divisional rhetoric and for it to follow the traditional path that we have, like, what is the point of the ranking system if you're just going to chuck in, you know, if the guy is the champion, that they can just, you know, they can choose who, you know, he can fight number 6, he can fight Cody Garbrandt if he wants to, or Aljamain Sterling wants to fight Cody Garbrandt. That's ridiculous. Why would he want to fight him? But it's because he kind of puts himself in the ability to make that choice if he really wants to. And that's Dana White saying, like, you know, I'm going to offer you a fight, but I'm not going to make you take that fight.
Also, though, doesn't Aljamain Sterling want to confirm to himself that he's actually the best in the world? Doesn't he want to, like, because I think we all agree here, Yan is the best 135 on the planet. Like, I think we all, like, don't you want to like know that you genuinely are, like,
and just the way that the last fight finished.
Yeah, there's a weird mindset to Aljamain Sterling with this though. Like, he's like, for me personally, I'd go, look, it's not how I wanted it to end. You know, I feel like we should run this back just so we can confirm who is the best out, you know, in this division at the moment. or in the world currently. It's just a strange mindset that it also looks terrible from Sterling. It looks like he's running away from him because he knows he can't beat him. That's what it comes across like to me. It's like he's running scared, But, I think in the end, Jan does get back inside there with Sterling, and I think he probably does beat him.
Yeah, and you're not the champ until you have defended the belt. You know what I mean? It's all well and good winning it, but when you win it and then you either vacate because you've been inactive, or you vacate because of something else, are you really the champ? Do you know what I mean? I don't really think that person can be considered a champion, especially not off the way he won his fight. If he was to be like, cool, you know what? I've got 3 defenses now. And Aljo was like, I've had the belt. I've got 3 defenses. You're the champ. Do you know what I mean? You've earned that. But when you're not willing to fight as frequently, or you're not willing to fight a certain individual, it really does it takes away a lot from having that strap,
I agree.
Definitely, I agree.
Beautiful. So if there's nothing else to say about this weekend's fights, we will call it a day here. And we just don't know. 263 obviously had a lot of decisions. And a fight night like this, it could well be that all we see is fireworks after fireworks after fireworks for these guys. But we just don't know. That is the beauty of mixed martial arts, that you do not know what is going to happen. Will someone come out and get a 2-second KO? Who knows? Will it be a sub in the 3rd round? Who knows? That is the glory of mixed martial arts, and we love breaking it down. We will be talking about these fights next Sunday for the breakdown episode of that card, and then we'll obviously be talking about the one after that. Who's on the card after that? Is that the Garn one?
It is. It's Cyril Garn, Alex Volkov.
Beautiful. Some heavyweights making a bit of noise. Cyril Garn. George, I know you're pretty hot on this guy. Francis Ngannou training partner, etc. Didn't you say they were living together as well?
No, Walt Harris and Francis Ngannou are currently living together. Yeah, but I would say that whoever comes through that fight next weekend is looking very close to a title shot.
But so is John Jones, so we just don't know.
And
of course.
next week we have George's favorite fighter, Shavkat Rakhmonov. Hell of a name on that guy.
Yes,
Fantastic.
my guy Shavkat, who's now training at Sanford with Henry Hooft.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Very good move.
He's a big,
Definitely an up and comer.
100% an up and comer. He's a beast.
And you missed my deaf joke.
No, he's not deaf, man. He's not deaf, man.
Which one?
He's fully. No, that's Askarov.
Askarov, yeah, Askarov.
There you go.
No. So yes, my guy Shavkat, can't wait. I'm so excited. He's a beast. He's definitely. I can confirm already. He will be in Crush Corner.
I look forward to it.
A preemptive Crush Corner from George.
That's it. Nice one. Thank you very much for making it to the end of the episode. We are the Fight and Talk 2 team. If you like the content, please hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends. If you're listening to us on the Sportinarium Radio, thank you very much for joining in. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. So check us out over there. If you don't want to see the visuals, you can listen to the audio when you're driving to the shops and when you are driving home from the shops. Depends how far the shops are, but nevertheless, you can listen to us on all of those audio platforms as well. Thank you, the eloquent analyst, as always. And George over in Crush Casual Corner, the man with the plan. And we will see you next
Lot of C's.
Man with the what?
Lot of C's. Crush Casual Corner.
Casual Crush Corner.
I'm Triple C.
He's oh God. Oh God.
Oh dear.